one of the things we focused on for my retail sales was the average ticket. And that was basically the average amount of money that someone spent every time they swiped their card at your register. Come in for some socks, buy some shoes to go with those socks. Come in for a suit, let's make sure we get you some pants, a belt, shirt, tie, cufflinks, the works. Increase your average ticket because that increases the value of those relationships. I apply the same thing to real estate clients. Me personally, the people that I'm looking for, I don't want clients that are going to buy one house every 5 years. I want someone that's going to buy a house at least every 5 months.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. I'm Shelby Johnson, and today I'm here with my good friend, Landon Stone. He's out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Landon's been an agent for 6 years, and he leads a close-knit crew of 7 agents on his team, not including himself. He still closes deals personally and has closed 22 in the past 6 months, over 110,000 in GCI. And Landon does so many things. He's an agent and a team leader. He also is an investor, a general contractor, property management, and he hosts a massive meetup in the Greensboro area. But we're going to talk about how less is more today. And we're also going to talk about how his market is down almost 40%, but his team will double their business this year. So we'll talk about if, maybe your business is down and you're looking for ways to thrive in the changing market that we're all experiencing. This show is for you. Welcome, Landon.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
Dude, your level of excited and my level of excited, I think they're the same. They just come out different, Oh
yeah. It's all within. I'm bursting with excitement. You just can't see it.
I can feel it maybe kind of if I pretend. Okay, Landon, let's go back. Let's go back to year one and let's share because, it's really cool to say you're doing all these things, but how did you get started? Let's go back to year one.
Year one, my year one in real estate started a few months before my year one in real estate. I bought my first house in 2016. It was I'd say it was a dream of mine, and that's probably the right word for it, but it was more of a mission of mine. I knew when I graduated high school, when I wanted to live on my own, that I wanted to own the house that I lived in. I don't really know why. I didn't know anything about real estate investing. I knew nothing about the value of home ownership. It was just something that you did in my mind. I graduated high school in 2012. I bought my first house in 2016. And right after buying that house, I decided to quit my full-time job. It was not immediately after, but it was a couple months after. I had been working in retail. I was a store manager for a higher end men's clothing store. I worked a lot of hours. I met a lot of cool people. I didn't hate what I did, but I didn't like the hours. I didn't like the fact that it was just challenging to work retail. I went to school to be an attorney, and I realized through this job with this clothing store that I didn't want to be an attorney. I didn't really like the lives that the attorneys that I at least got to know and that I worked with, that they led. I didn't want to work 80 hours a week, yet I found myself in retail doing that, or very well close. So I wanted to find a way out. I went to college, I got a degree, but there wasn't really a job market that I wanted to step into that seemed like it would have a high enough starting salary and a good enough career track for me to be like, I want to do this the rest of my life. But I did meet a lot of people through my job that were in real estate. And one of the big differences between the attorney energy and the real estate energy was they were a lot more positive, at least in my experience. And I know that that's not a blanket statement. There's very unpositive real estate people and some great attorneys out there. But I really got to be friends with these people, mortgage bankers, some real estate agents, and so forth. And I started thinking that's what I want to do. I knew construction growing up. When I was 18 and I graduated high school, I helped my parents completely renovate a house that they had just bought for them to live in. So I had a lot of the skills in the construction world. So I wanted to be a real estate investor full time. I was going to flip houses for a living. And 3 months after buying my very first house to live in, I bought my very first investment property that was a flip. Bought it off the market. Found it myself. I had a buddy that had actually ironically left the exact same job I was in, and him leaving to go into real estate was the reason I got promoted into being a store manager. So it was just very full circle. He helped me buy this investment property, and I spent the next 6 months working on it. I quit my full-time job so that I could do this because I didn't have enough time to do both. And by the end of it, I sold the house 4 days before the note was due, and I made life-changing amount of money. And it felt really good, but it was very scary. I remember, I don't even think I've really told this story. The only thing that like Caitlin and I talk about it occasionally is I remember one night at like 11 p.m. grouting this massive shower that I had built and just like having a full on panic attack in that shower and like just collapsing in the floor. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was terrified that I was going to lose the house before I could sell it because it had taken so long to do this renovation. It wasn't even that I was running out of money for the renovation. It was just that it had taken too long. I did too much on my own, and I had help from family and stuff, but you know, I'd gotten in the groove of just showing up and working every day that time had gotten away from me. So I sold it. Luckily, I listed it. It was right at the kind of the middle of 2017 when houses started selling really quickly and for more money than they were used to. And I got to catch that wave. I sold the house for about $40,000 more than I had projected to sell it when I bought it. So what I did is I was like, I'm not doing that again. I put the money away. I got into real estate full time. I had gotten my license through this process, but the idea is I'll buy my own houses and I'll list them myself as a flipper. And I realized like even today, I don't list my own flips. Bad idea. But through that, I realized I would much rather provide service and help other investors that might be a little bit better off financially than I was and gain some experience, work on the sales and the consulting side. And that's what got me into real estate as a real estate agent. Was I actually flipped a house first. I set that money aside. That was my 1 year savings cushion. And if I ran out of that, I had to go get a real job again. But that wasn't an option for me. I find that myself, if I can put myself in tight spaces, back in the corner, I tend to do a little bit better. So that was kind of the mindset behind why I got into real estate in the sales side of it the way that I did. I thought at first that I would start part-time. I'd keep my job. I'd find some ways to sell houses. But I had someone else in my world that had tried that and failed. And so when I made the decision to become an agent, I made the decision to become an agent full-time, dedicate all of my time to learning it, lead generating, and building a business. And that's what got me started into real estate.
So that year one, though, so you just made this decision, you have your safety net, but not really. You still feel like your back's against the wall. And now you're doing this pivot and you're facing real estate agent life. What is your strategy? Did you have any as to how you were going to lead generate and how you were going to build a business from the ground up?
I had no clue. I joined a firm that was a recommendation from a mortgage broker that I was friends with. He was like, you should join this firm. He really knows his stuff. And I sat down with him and he had a pool of leads, a database of internet leads and that kind of stuff. So when I started, that was my thing. I'll just work all these leads in the database until I get things going. My first closing, it came from that database. like a year-old lead that had been working with another agent for the past 6 months, that just through consistent follow-up, she hired me, helped her buy a house. I learned a lot through that process. But the majority of, so my first year in real estate, I sold 33 homes. And what really started that is funny enough, I didn't really plan this, but the deer behind me, I did not shoot. You won't see the deer in the audio, but I have a deer behind me. His name is Lando. He came out of a recent project of ours, but the for sale by owner sign that he is holding is the very first for sale by owner that I ever signed. And we did it in a call night. It was just kind of like, I wasn't really generating business very well as an agent, even though I was great at sales. And I had all of this commitment. I didn't really know what to do. So me and a new agent in our office's ISA decided we're going to do a call night together. We're just going to call people and we're going to learn from each other and figure out how to get some clients. And so we decided to call for sale by owners. And the reason I hold this sign is because there's so many lessons in those conversations that I had. First lady that I ever talked to as a for sale by owner, that's her sign. I called her and she screamed at me. We had it on speakerphone. So the game is we'll call people until someone answers, and then we'll have the conversation. And then once I finish the conversation, I'm going to give the phone to you and you're going to call until someone answers. And we had like legal pads and we would like write how to handle the objection. And we knew nothing about what we were doing.
Here's a quick commercial break from our sponsor, Ryan Pineda.
If you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month, or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes or flip more homes or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there.
Now back to the show.
But so I called her. She yelled at me, gave me this whole spiel about, I don't remember, agents are evil and yada, yada, yada. The typical spiel that you'll get from like a for sale by owner a lot of the time. But what I distinctly remember is making sure that I would not get off that phone with an excuse to follow up. Like that's my one goal if I'm ever cold calling or I'm ever reaching out to someone I don't already know. I'm realistic with myself that I'm not going to convert someone that didn't know me 10 minutes ago to a client. I might, and that's really cool, but usually I'm not. So when I get off the phone, when I get on the phone, my goal is to get off the phone with an email address and a reason to follow up. And I did that there. And she gave me permission to call her in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I called her. She yelled at me. Turns out that she was a business coach. And so she did commend me on, she ended up we talked for like 15 minutes about how Fortune is in the follow-up and how she works with some big corporations and she respects what I'm doing. And so we talked for a bit, and then she just got back to yelling at me about how she's not going to hire an agent and this is just a waste of my time. And I remember being, well, that's fine, but I'm going to be here ready to help you if you don't sell your house by yourself. And I want to be the agent that you call. That's all I'm asking for. And I hope that I can generate the trust. I have a painting at my house as well, that if you really want to build rapport with somebody, you will snoop through the photos of their house and find some common ground. And so I saw this big painting of the Eiffel Tower over her fireplace. And I remember on that second call, I asked her about that. I was like, that's a really cool painting. And I had taken my wife to Paris for our first anniversary. And so I asked her about it. Turns out like there was a big story behind it. And it's painted by a local artist here that is autistic. He doesn't speak, but he's amazing with a paintbrush. And so he paints and he sells prints, and he uses that to pay his own expenses, but also does a lot for autism awareness in the area. So like it was this really cool story that we connected over. Well, I bought that painting. I found them, I bought it, and then I texted her that I went and bought a painting from him because I knew that just like that, I genuinely was interested in it. So it wasn't like just a tactic, but I did know that if we own the same painting. So I figured that there would be some sort of close connection. Well, 2 days later, she calls me and she's like, I'm sick and tired of all you agents calling me. Will you come over and list my house? That's all I wanted. So we listed her house. We sold it. Yeah, it was a win. But I got a referral from her. I got a referral from her referral. I got a referral from her referral's referral, all in the same neighborhood. And so that one call really led me down a path to probably $1.5 million worth of volume. And in our market where the average price point was $150,000, that's a pretty big deal for someone that didn't grow up in this area and had no sphere of influence. I'd only been in Greensboro for a year when I got into real estate. I came from Texas, so I didn't know anybody. Yeah. So I had to meet people.
Yeah.
And for me, meeting people was looking for people that already had real estate needs, and that was for sale by owners. I got hooked. I closed probably 12 of my deals in my first year were either a for sale by owner or a referral from a for sale by owner. And as an agent, if you don't have a sphere, if you can get a referral from a for sale by owner, you're doing something right because they don't like agents. So I learned that really quick. And then I started targeting expireds. They are willing to pay an agent. They just happen to hire the wrong one. And so I thought that was really cool that I could go in and I could provide them better advice, or I could help them market their house better and do something that someone else hadn't been able to do in the past. And that created some referral business as well. So my main sources of business, even though I had the online leads, maybe 4 of my first 30 closings were from online leads, but the rest were just from a snowball from me calling for sale by owners or calling expireds, and then working all of the systems that comes with having your own listing, holding open houses, knocking on the neighbors' doors. Like there were a lot of other things related to those, but that led me to selling 30 houses in my first year. But by that, I was just ready to quit because I had done so much.
That's a amazing first year. I think that anyone would be happy with 33 their first year, and maybe not even their first year. They'd be super happy with that. So you did the for sale by owners, you did expireds, and it sounds like you were out there slinging in the beginning when you had no clue, no strategy. You just knew you had to do something. And so logically, it made sense to call the people who already had real estate needs. I thought that was really smart. And then, so before, I would like to get on to the point where you're almost quit, but real quick. So how else at this point in time are you learning what to do as an agent in order to actually convert people and get those referrals at the end of the day?
To get the referrals, just do the right thing. Do what you say you're going to do. And in all reality, that's all there is to it with referrals. I'd add to that, make sure that your clients and your people that you know, including your family and your friends, understand that you only get paid when you're selling houses. And so the most amount of support that anyone can give you is a referral. But I believe that we have to earn that too. So just do what you're going to say you're going to do. Be committed to being an expert. But when it comes to having the conversations with for sale by owners and expireds, I think it's really important to ask good questions to get to their motivation. And if I were to really try and figure out like what makes me good at sales, it's because I'm curious and I care. So I want to know, like, why are you selling your house? And some people will be like, why is that any of your business? Well, it's not. I just thought that was a good question to ask. You don't have to tell me why you're selling your house. But most of the time people will. But you also have to understand the other motivations from the market, like interest rates right now. You have to understand what makes someone move when interest rates are at all-time highs. And you can look at like the types of people. Like, for example, someone that wants to sell their house and move up or move down. Sell your house and move down. That's a very, very difficult thing to do in our market right now if you got like a 3% interest rate. Because it doesn't really matter how much equity you have in that house. You're going to burn all of like that. If you're trying to like downsize for a cheaper payment or something like that, that can be really hard right now. But people that inherited a house, well, interest rates don't matter to them. So you can identify the types of clients that the market circumstances don't matter for. Someone living in a one-bed apartment, like a married couple living in a one-bed apartment that's about to have a kid, interest rates aren't nearly as important as having space to raise a family.
Okay, and I definitely want to dig more into identifying those like circumstances and how to pivot. I think that's so helpful. We'll see if we get time about it today, but I want to go back to, you did 33 your first year, and then you mentioned that you were about to quit. Can you talk us through why you had such a successful first year? What were the things you were struggling with?
Well, why I had such a successful first year is probably a large reason why I wanted to quit. And it was because I worked so hard and I worked so many hours and I had absolutely no leverage. I was doing all of the calls. I was doing all of the converting. I was going on all of my appointments. I was doing all of the paperwork. I was answering phone calls at 9 p.m. that could wait until the morning. I just didn't understand these things. And so I started to experience a lot of burnout just by doing that many. And what we've actually found since then and doing research into agents' businesses and leverage and all of that stuff is I wasn't abnormal. Most agents need leverage once they hit the 20 deal a year mark if they want to enjoy their career. They need some sort of leverage, or you're not going to provide a good service and you're not going to be referral based. I know some agents that will sell 40, 50 deals a year, all from Zillow. So it's really expensive, but the reason they keep having to pay Zillow is because they're just churning and burning. They're not doing anything to invest in that relationship to get referrals because they don't have the time. And they're chasing their tail so often that they also don't have the energy to be their best on a daily basis for the clients that they have.
Quick pause. Let's talk real estate investing. Do you want to invest but don't have the time to hunt for deals or run numbers? Or maybe you've got a bunch of investors looking for deals, but deal flow totally dried up? Well, word on the street is there's a build-to-rent company in Florida that's proven to be a great option for both realtors and investors looking for a hands-off solution with numbers that work. They build single-family homes, duplexes, and quads. They handle all of the details from breaking ground to tenant placement, then manage the rental on the back end. Plus, they're offering to pay referral fees on any business you send their way. Interested? Go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com/invest for more information. Now, back to the show. What would you recommend, knowing what you know now, like if there was someone else in that just finished year one position that you were in with that burnout, what leverage and what actions would you recommend to that person?
Start a team or join a team that understands your goals and aspirations. But at the end of the day, you're going to be on a split. it's either with your P&L or it's with somebody else's. And if you want to sell more houses, make more money, and enjoy your life more, you need to have a system of support. And I call that a team.
Okay, that's helpful. So when you say start a team or join a team, you're not necessarily talking about hiring on, bringing on a buyer's agent right away. What do you define as team? Is it like a transaction coordinator, listing coordinator, or is it like, hey, if you're at this point, you are looking for agents right away?
I believe that if you just jump to hiring agents without an infrastructure to support them, you'll never keep them. And so if you're just going to hire or start a team, whether it's informal or it's formal, and all you're going to do is sling them your overflow, well, then you're going to churn through agents, because they're going to either not like the leads that you're giving them, or they're not going to like paying for those leads if they've got their own over here. So you have to actually provide support, and kind of like the for sale by owner, you got to understand the motivation of yourself. And if you're going to start a team, the people on your team. If I were to go back in time, because I wouldn't say I necessarily started my team correctly, because I started with agents, get your business on lock. Be building systems the second you start figuring out things that work, so that you can replicate those things that work. But hire an executive assistant, an EA, an admin. You can hire a transaction coordinator if you want, but in my opinion, you shouldn't do the transaction coordinator piece until after you've hired someone that works for you, that helps you establish a business. And then you hire that transaction coordinator to be leverage for your admin. Now, a lot of agents won't agree with this because, well, my TC, I only pay when I'm closing deals. Well, you should always be closing deals if you're going to have a team. And so having an admin is actually usually a little bit cheaper, and they do a lot more for you and your business than a transaction coordinator was. So I would start there. And then as you attract people, start bringing on other agents that want to do what you're doing. Or if you do indeed have an overflow of leads that you can't handle, that's when you start looking at a buyer's agent or just an agent to partner with. Because by that point, you probably have systems. You have an assistant, so you have leverage that you can provide them so that they can focus more on generating business, closing deals, and less on all of the stuff that burns most agents out.
Could you give an overview about what your team looks like now? Like, what is the leverage in place now, and what do the agents look like? And then the second one we'll get to in a second, that'll be part two, is like, what are their jobs? What is their lane within your organization? So first is, who's there? Who's on your team?
So my team, I'll start, I've got myself. I'm on my team. I have an assistant that she helps me with all things related to my business and taking care of my customers. I know that we kind of talked before, and we're not going to really touch on the general contracting business and the property management business and the flipping businesses that we have. But she's a big, she is a big key to me being able to be more focused. And it took until this year to realize that that's what I needed, was an assistant to support. She's just an extension of me. She gives me 80 hours on the week instead of 40, essentially, to do my job. So we've got Jenny. We have 7 agents on our team of various different experience levels. I've got one agent that's been with me almost 4 years now. I've got 2 that are just past their first year anniversary, and I've got a handful of brand new agents that are getting into production. But we also have a transaction coordinator that's not a part of our team. They're a third party. That's fairly new for us, is bringing that in. But that was to create some leverage from operations so that we could focus more on our clients and on our marketing and our lead generation as a team and kind of outsource some of that paperwork and that transaction management piece so that we can just be more present, if that makes sense. And then my wife works with me as well, but she's a member of the team. She's not in production. She's our director of operations. She focuses more with just kind of helping fill in the gaps now. We have 2 kids. She was much, much, much more involved 2 years ago than now. But really what she helps with is like providing a lot of the mentorship for agents, providing a lot of the answers throughout the day and helping with making sure that we know how to put together good offers. She used to run a transaction coordination company, so she has hundreds of deals under her belt, and there's very few scenarios that she has not experienced in a real estate transaction. So like Caitlin is the person to go to for the, like, what if this happens in a transaction? Because chances are she's handled it. So she kind of fills like a very unique role that I wouldn't say is a role, but because I'm fortunate enough to have my wife in my business, that we get to add this like extra compound layer of value for our agents. So that's our team. So kind of in short is we have 2 admin, a transaction coordinator, and then 7 agents. We've had VAs in the past. We currently don't have one. We will be bringing one on to help with some of our content. And just the thing with VAs is when you can create a system that takes a lot of time, like video editing, or we have pretty comprehensive listing packets that we send to our clients that now that listings are sitting longer, they're much, much, much more time consuming. Like hiring those people in to just kind of do the checklist is a good piece that will bring back. We've had a lot of successes and failures in the VA quadrant. So I really prefer team members, but I have learned that there are certain workflows that if you have enough of them, a VA makes sense. Like just do this over and over and over for 20 to 40 hours a week. Perfect. But to be like a customer service representative for your team, more difficult.
Tough.
Not impossible, but more difficult.
Not impossible, yes. Okay, so I have a good visualization of what your team looks like. And what I'm seeing is that, you guys have 7 agents and the market, we mentioned in the beginning of the show, is down 40%. So I'm curious about what you guys are doing for lead generation and what that looks like for whether that be leverage, but also what the agents are doing to generate business.
Yeah, so kind of multifaceted here. We have a model for our lead generation and we split it. The agents have a lead generation responsibility and so does the team. If you as the agent, you put in your side of the work, you are supplemented with additional leads and appointments and sometimes just ready to go clients from the team, but it's a partnership. So you do your end, we do our end. You don't do your end, this is nothing more than a club.
Quick pause. Are you looking for new ways to lead generate? Aaron built his own software to generate off-market seller leads and just released a version for you. PropHawk is the most efficient and least expensive software out there, designed to get you talking to sellers within minutes. With all the data of PropStream, the CRM power of InvestorFuse, and texting capabilities of Launch Control, you can get everything in one system for a fraction of the price of those others. Your investment is just $20 a month and includes an hour-long free onboarding call, so you start talking with sellers today. Go to prophawk.com and sign up. Now, back to the show.
But what we found, like being able to increase our business this year, we focus on open houses, we focus on our sphere of influence and building that sphere of influence. And then we pick some sort of prospecting lever. For sale by owners, expireds, circle prospecting, door knocking, maybe host a meetup or do some seminars, but just pick one, something that can help fuel your database. Open houses are nice because they're like a storefront. You just post up in there and leads literally walk into you. It's pretty cool. And if they don't walk into you, well, you just set 2 hours aside that you could like call the neighbors and try and ask them to come meet with you in this house. And that's like some of the stuff that we focus on. But coming into this year, one of the big focuses that we wanted to have was high value relationships with people that aren't as rooted in interest rates or the fluctuations of the market. And a lot of these are like real estate investors, people that want to flip properties. You can make money in real estate investing in any market if you know your market. And so I wanted to find a few of those that would be residual business. If I have a core amount of people that are serious investors and they're ready to spend some money on some deals, then I can spend my lead generation efforts looking for those deals. If the client doesn't want to buy those deals, well, then those are listings or they're wholesale opportunities or they're opportunities. They're extra conversations. There's people to put in my database. But if they do buy them, well, then that's a buy. It's a listing if they're going to flip it. And so we wanted to focus and try and find some higher value relationships. One of the things we focused on for my retail sales was the average ticket. And that was basically the average amount of money that someone spent every time they swiped their card at your register. Come in for some socks, buy some shoes to go with those socks. Come in for a suit. Let's make sure we get you some pants, a belt, shirt, tie, cufflinks, the works. Increase your average ticket because that increases the value of those relationships. I apply the same thing to real estate clients. Me personally, the people that I'm looking for, I don't want clients that are going to buy one house every 5 years. I want someone that's going to buy a house at least every 5 months. And I have a couple of those. I have one client that we've probably done 10 to 15 deals together in the last 12 months. Get 3 of those and you've got yourself a business and all of the time to enhance that business and to build a team. So that's really the focus in a market where it's really concerning, is solve the problems for people that are going to do them many times.
Everyone is thinking, where do I find those high value relationships? So you have a couple. Where did you find them and where are you continuing to look for them?
It's Facebook. Participate in your Facebook investor groups, provide value. My biggest relationship, it was someone DM'd me and asked me if I would run a CMA on a property. And I did it. But I provided value with that commentary. And his response was something along the lines of, wow, this is way more in depth than any other agent that I've ever asked this for. I don't know why I actually did it for him that way, because usually I'm like, what am I going to get out of this? But I learned a lot from that. I spent 10 minutes of my time providing a very detailed analysis of what I thought a house would sell for once it was fixed up and why. And next thing I knew, I had like 3 or 4 listings from this guy. And he had just seen me like participate in these Facebook investment groups. Like when someone asks if there are any buyers in one of your Facebook investment groups, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, get on Facebook and search your city's name, investment group, and you'll find a lot of them. They'll come by different names, but there are all of these groups that wholesalers use to throw up their off-market properties. And so what I started doing was I started asking for the information of every single one that came. And so I was getting a lot of these off-market properties, but people also saw Landon comments a lot. Landon's always asking for the information on these deals. He's always analyzing deals. If they look at my profile, they'll see that I'm a real estate agent, but in these groups, I'm acting as an investor. Not once did I ever ask for anyone's business, and maybe that's counterintuitive, but I was just participating. I was just trying to find some deals for myself, and then I ended up finding a couple other people. Same thing with I don't know where all of them come from, but I do know that activity gets activity. And so if you just come from contribution and you're providing value to people that you don't know, do it enough times and someone's got a need and someone's going to appreciate you and feel like they owe something to you if you're taking the time to help them. And it's just a numbers game at that point. I view myself as very fortunate, but when I realized that it's that easy, it is replicatable.
Activity gets activity is really powerful and so true. One question before I pivot a little bit is, you mentioned the high value relationships, but you also mentioned if you have those, then you can spend your time looking for deals. So how are you currently looking for deals?
I still participate in those Facebook groups. I just now have a lot more buying power than I did a year or two ago. So I have the ability to actually perform on just about any of those good deals that come in through the relationships that we've had. And we've also formed some great private money relationships out of doing the same thing. And private money is just another word for investors that want to invest in real estate, but don't want to do all of the work involved with it. So it's not that big of a complicated relationship. Just find someone with money that doesn't want to do all of the things that you're trying to do to find the deal. And it's a match made in heaven. But we're playing around in the Facebook groups. Any deal whatsoever that's in my market that I see, I ask for. I ask them to email me the details. When they email me those details, I add their email into my database as well. And we make sure that, especially when dealing with wholesales, that if we put a deal under contract, that we're working with clients that will perform. Because now I get deals sent to me before they're put on Facebook, because Landon and his clients do what they say they're going to do. As long as the seller wasn't lying to begin with. But even in those cases, a lot of the time we can figure it out. I do that. For sell by owners, excellent investment opportunities. They don't want to sell their house using an agent. They would rather sell it at a discount than pay a real estate agent. And we learned that fairly quickly during 2020, 2021. So those are all great investment properties. They'd rather the success of saying they sold it themselves than the increase in the proceeds if they would have hired an agent to begin with. Expired, same thing. Hey, your house didn't sell. You still want to sell it? All of these tactics that we use as real estate agents transfer over to the investment world. All of these tactics, if you're an investor wanting to become an agent, transfer them over there and offer an additional service. And that service is, let me make you more money.
Landon, you have done a lot and you are doing a lot. So what advice do you have for agents who are considering doing all the things?
Get really clear with all the things are and understand what that's actually going to require of you to be able to do it at a high level. Having a bunch of streams of income doesn't mean anything if it's a bunch of tiny streams of income. And that's a big misconception in this internet and ticker-talker age of generate all of these streams of income, make $50 here, make $50 there, but we don't account for the time, the energy, and just the mental real estate we give those things, and it can become overwhelming. I've gone through just as many mental breakdowns as mental breakthroughs in my career, and they usually do line up with I'm doing too much a lot of the time. What I've learned is to focus on the priorities, and those priorities lie in, what do you want your life to look like? I've learned that the only way for me to say no to stuff is to envision what my life looks like during the thing that I'm trying to talk myself out of saying yes to. Because a lot of the time the money is not worth it, no matter how much it is. if you're constantly feeling stretched. And if you stretch to too many streams of income at once, it's so much easier for it to just all come crashing down as opposed to really focus. So focus first on identifying what do you want your lifestyle to look like? How much does that cost and how does that feel? What do you want to be doing on a day-to-day basis? What kind of conversations do you want to actually be having? That's why I focus on investors, is because those are the conversations I want to have. Does it make sense or does it not? Okay, cool. Let's make a deal. I don't like showing houses, so I work with investment buyers, so I don't have to show houses because that's the lifestyle that I want. There are tons of other people that don't want anything to do with investors, and they love opening up doors. If you're in the Greensboro area, give me a call. I'd love to give you a job. But shameless plug there. You can cut it out if you want.
No.
But at the end of the day, it's really like focusing on building something up to generate the leverage where it doesn't require a full-time effort to get the full-time results anymore. And then focus on what is the next piece of value. I hear a lot of people talk in terms of vertical integration, but no one really ever explains what that is or how to do it. But really, the best way to do it is it's a business built on top of a business, built on top of a business. And we have some vertical integration there, but just like anything that you're going to build up, you better have a really, really good foundation for it. Not just on the financial side and the business side, but on your time management and your energy management side, and really ask yourself, do you have the time? Are you willing to give up the time? I work a lot of weekends. I work way more doing what I do right now, and I'm working on backstepping that some than I would have as an attorney, I think. I love what I do, but I also realize I've got 2 young kids and I'd like to spend some more time at home. And I'd like to have a little bit less client obligation. And that's where a team and that's where leverage really comes in, is like we can build this really big thing, but if it doesn't allow you to live the life that you want to live, then it's not really a really good thing. It's just a really big thing. And so if you want to build something big, make sure to partner with people that want to build it with you. And just make sure to focus on one thing at the right time. The best piece of advice I got last year from my business partner, Ben Kinney, and he said a lot of the times when you look for distraction, it's because you're ignoring the priorities that are staring you in the face. And when you want to fix something over here, and you want to go tinker, or you think you should work on your social media profile instead of make those calls, you know what you need to do, and you're ignoring it. And that's called distraction. Heard someone else talk, and it's really funny. I never thought about it. But distraction is not the opposite of being focused. It's the opposite of traction. And so get that traction first, get the momentum, and then build onto it. When you notice that you have more time or more resources to add more service, do it. Don't go, real estate, it's wearing me out. I want to do some more stuff over here before dealing with your real estate stuff. It doesn't, 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4 in the world of multiple revenue streams or vertical integration. There's a lot of time and energy sucks that come with that. And I'm working on de-vertically integrating some of our stuff right now, just so that I can focus more on our agents and on our core clients, and then rebuilding some of those auxiliary services when we have more people in our world to help take that to the next level.
That was going to be my next question before we had to wrap up, was what does the future hold? So is there anything you want to add on to that, what you just said?
The future that holds with our business is expansion, really focusing on the sales and developing the systems that we have in a way that's replicatable in other markets. And then being able to go back and Like my vision is building up this Greensboro team to where there's someone other than me that gets to run it and be a team leader and be a business partner in this thing so that we can partner with more people around the nation that want to do the same things, that have similar interests as us, that want to be able to provide turnkey services for both homeowners and investors. And by turnkey, I'm talking real estate brokerage, wholesale transactions, general contracting or renovations, and property management. When you can do that, like I have a couple clients that we're working towards, and it's a long-term thing more than likely, but like $100 million budgets because of the value that that turnkey service brings. And some of the feedback is like, they don't know anyone else that has bundled that up. But we're still really refining. We don't really have it bundled up, but it gets the attention of people because of what we do. Like we have a client that flew in from California and they're focusing just on this market. And they found us because we offer turnkey services, because we can offer construction resources for investors, even if it's just consulting. Like having that experience, but to have someone fly in and meet with you to set up goals to sell tens of houses a year, buy and sell equals like 10 equals 20 deals from one client. Like that's really, really cool. And it's really, really exciting. Like that's what we're focusing on, is how can we replicate that? How can we get and be an attraction for the 10 deal a year clients as opposed to the once a decade clients? And we want to help them, but when you just look at the lead generation effort, you can generate 10 clients a year, or you can generate one client that does 10 deals a year. And which one seems easier?
Okay, people are listening and they're like, man, Landon's awesome. I know he's out of Greensboro, North Carolina, so I can send all of my leads to him. How else can listeners help you? Like, what is the ideal outcome? What would you like?
I'd love if listeners follow me on Instagram. It's Learn, Focus, Grow. Should be pretty easy to remember, but Learn, Focus, Grow. And referrals are amazing, but also referrals of agents in any market that really want to take their business to the next level and want to know what a partnership-based team looks like, as opposed to the old version of a team that exists. And I don't have a copy of that red book in my office, but they're two different things. There are very fundamental differences between the team that we run and the team that everyone thinks about when they think real estate team. And so like, if you want to know that difference and you want to help me out, like let's have a conversation about that difference, just so that you can let me know if you ever run into anyone that seems like they could be a good partner, regardless of the area of the country that they're in, because that's the beauty of our brokerage.
Love it. Okay, guys, you heard it. You can go follow him on Instagram. Landon Stone is Learn, Focus, Grow on the gram. And then also all of his company links will be included in the show notes. So check those out. And Landon, is there anything that we missed? What did we not talk about that you would like to mention? Or did we hit it all?
I think we covered quite a bit. I would say that we didn't hit it all. But this was a good sesh. We can end on this note.
Okay. Love it. Okay, guys, go follow him. And then if you want to hang out with me and Aaron, we are The Shelby Show and Aaron Amuchastegui on the gram. As always, please hit us with feedback. We want to know. And that's it for today. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Landon, thanks for coming on the show. And Real Estate Rockstars, we're out.